aeroplanes and ships, the mechanism of flying and floating is almost the same. The principle is the same. For a ship to float or a fish to float in water, the displacement have to be proportional to the weight of the object. For example, a ship have to displace certain amount of water that is equal to the weight of the ship. So the displacement law is how much of the ship in volume is underwater. That is the amount of water that's going to be displaced to lift the ship up. The displacement also works in aeroplanes. It is different. You cannot imagine it. It is not that simple. But the aeroplane have to displace air such that it will create wind or air density sufficient enough to create a lift. In the case of air, you talk about density and speed and pressure and volume, assuming that there is a simple relationship between the three variables. The relationship is that pressure times the volume equals the absolute temperature multiplied by a constant. That is the gas pressure. But in any case, to apply the displacement law for an aeroplane, it will take more effort than applying the displacement law for a ship. The ship is simply to assume that you have enough cavities in the ship that will have air and medium less dense than water. Therefore, the ship has more walls than more solid bulk. Whatever displacement, whatever volume of the ship that is submerged underwater, that volume will create sufficient weight of water that can push the ship up, make it float. The biggest trick and the physics part of it, why does the water have to kick the objects up depending on the displacement of volume of water? That the physics is very interesting, but you can answer it in a very short statement by saying that the air is compressible, can be compressed. The water cannot be compressed, cannot compress water. The water has some physics that the molecules can bond themselves together very tightly, create equal pressure in all directions except the vertical direction. The vertical direction, the pressure have to be the weight of the water from the point you are measuring the pressure to the top of the water. So the deeper you sink in water, the more pressure will be above you. But from side to side, the pressure will be the same at the point where you are from the top, because liquid have the property of equalizing the pressure in all directions. That doesn't apply in the case of metals, solids. Well, it applies in the case of gases, but the gases you can create your own particular medium around you by using either propellers or a jet engine, where you can suck the air from one side and you push it to the other side, create a wind under you. Second question, the more important question you will ask yourself, why does the engine have to push the air horizontally from the front of the aeroplane to the back in order to be lifted up and balanced in the air? To answer that question more scientifically, you have to realize that everything that moves have to be controlled by two laws of physics: the conservation of momentum and the conservation of energy. Any particle, any massive object, anything that moves, the motion have to be conserved in energy. How much energy is expended or spent in the motion have to be equal how much energy is gained by the motion. The same situation applies to the momentum. As a matter of fact, the conservation of momentum is the conservation of mass in time. When you think about the momentum, whenever the engine, the jet engine, sucks the air from the front and ejects it from the back, the air from the surrounding part of the aeroplane have to rush into the vacuum in the front and fill it. And the air behind the jet, when the jet is ejected, have to be rushing away to allow the ejection, the jet engine to flow. So you're creating local currents around you by a single engine that is sucking the air from the front to the back. And you use this that are circulating as a result of the jet you created or the wind you created. You will have currents in the front of the aeroplane that are trying to fill the vacuum that was created. And you have current behind the aeroplane that try to escape away from the ejection of the jet air. Manipulate these currents by using the flaps and the wings and the rudder and the elevator to perform the three motions that requires from the aeroplane to stay in control in the air. The aeroplane have to be able to pitch the nose, to lift the nose up or lower the nose. If you pitch it up, you need to go up or go down in order for the aeroplane to turn from side to side to yaw, either turn clockwise or counterclockwise by the rudder. The aeroplane also have to roll from one side to another side, and most of the time you can see the three motions, the pitch, the yaw, and the rolling happen in the same time in order to distribute the forces, the three forces that control the aeroplane that allow it to stay in the air. There are six forces. There are three, each one of them have two directions. So the lift is opposed by the weight, and the drag is opposed by the thrust, and the rolling on the right is opposed by rolling on the left. The three forces that have to keep the aeroplane controlled in the three-dimensional space. So the answer of the question, how does the aeroplane stay in the air, is simply by the two equations that we mentioned, or the two principles that we stated. The conservation of energy and the conservation of momentum. Fuel energy, you burn it in the jet or the propeller. You deliver the kinetic energy to the air. So that is whatever energy you deliver to the air, you have to get that energy back by allowing the aeroplane to be lifted up or thrusted forward or rolling one side to another or doing whatever motion you have. That is kinetic energy. That is the first principle, the conservation of energy. The conservation of momentum or the conservation of mass. You speeding the air by delivering kinetic energy to it. When the air speeds up, you create pressure because you're rushing the molecules of the air in certain direction very hard, very fast. You create high pressure in one spot, low pressure in another spot. You distribute the spots on the aeroplane such that you keep the aeroplane balanced in the three directions. Whenever you change the forces in one direction, you can change the motion. If you wanted the aeroplane to be pitched up, you have to change the lift between the tail and the nose, such that the lift at the nose will increase to pitch up, decrease to pitch down. If you change the forces in the transverse direction at the wings, right wing or left wing of the aeroplane, the left and the weight, or the left only because the weight is constant. You can lift one wing up, you can lower that wing down. Same thing with the other wing. That will control the rolling of the aeroplane. If you want to yaw the aeroplane to the clockwise or counterclockwise, you change the air pressure at the vertical sides of the rudder such that you can either push the tail to the right or to the left to make the aeroplane turn.